it's looking pretty good. The four running backs that we got with Crawford, Petaway, and McCoy, and Tevin Bush, but you bring in a freshman like Alex Singfield, who's actually, opening up some eyes for some of these coaches out there. You got 5 backs, and you're trying to figure out what to do with all of them. That I believe all of them have the ability to, hit a home run shot and make some big plays. So that, from an offensive perspective, that's probably the most consistent group that we got in terms of depth.
Now, with the running backs, being that all of them, well, for the most part, are pretty familiar playing with each other due to playing last year, do you think that maybe helps a little bit? They're familiar with each other, and you can kind of get more to the technique and kind of skip a couple steps there?
Yeah, you can. You can get more in depth with just the teaching and just trying to perfect their craft. But they're all different backs too, so it's pretty funny to challenge these kids on, Petaway is a big time pass pro guy and downhill runner, and he's tough, but we'll start throwing him the ball a little bit to try to improve his game that way. But I think the running backs in general is a unique group because I think they all bring something to the table. So it's going to be pretty fun to see how we can get them all implemented into the game plan.
About their versatility, that's a bonus for you, right? That you can take a guy like Kennedy or
oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
I tell you, that opens up a lot of things. I think that's kind of where the game's going. Those running backs that can be split up out all over the field, but also those tight ends that can attach and detach and move all over the field to create certain mismatches. And like Kennedy, I'm saying he's one of our top receivers too, and he's one of our top running backs. So it's been pretty fun to watch that package evolve because I think he's a very intelligent kid too, and you can put a lot on his plate. I've always been concerned about putting too much on kids, especially from a running back perspective. You got to learn the run game, the pass protections, and then you gotta learn the receiver routes, which that you're learning 2 positions right there. But Kennedy's been doing a great job, so you're going to see some pretty good packages with him.
It's been kind of your MO though, getting guys that aren't necessarily I formation backs, but are more multi. I think back to Smallwood and some of the guys you had here before. That's right. The profile you got with these guys, right?
Yeah, I think the more positions these guys can play, the more effective we're going to be. Because I think that makes it so much harder to game plan because the defense coordinator now has to realize that he can be split out all over the field where, you get guys that are just one-dimensional, they're probably either just going to go block somebody or maybe slip out in the flats every once in a while. So I think it makes it harder to game plan for.
Even with your tight ends and your H-backs, I mean, you could conceivably say you have these personnel, but that doesn't mean you're going to run or throw, right?
Yeah, exactly. I try to mix it up a lot with them, and I do a lot of self-scouts to make sure that there's not being as much tendencies, so you start working them where you can start to break those tendencies. So.
What do you think kind of spurred the additional usage of the tight end? What really brought that into the offense?
I think the importance of running the football is where it went. Like when we were back in the day at Houston, we were throwing it like 400 times a game, I felt like, but that was a little unrealistic, and then you got to Oklahoma State when we got hooked up with Coach Wickline, and we started running the ball. We had a Doak Walker finalist and Kendall Hunter, and we realized that the offense could take off more when you are having an effective run game, and that's when these tight end bodies, like I remember the first time we were here at West Virginia, we had Tyler Urban, and he was a big part of what we were trying to do in the run game. And I just think that's kind of where the game's going now, is that they're getting these tight end guys that can block, but they can also split out and run routes.
What do you want to see through week 1? What's your goals just in the next 5 days?
I want their thinking to slow down. If they're having any problems, like we're throwing a lot of looks at them right now, because it's time to get ready for everybody. We can't just constantly go up against Coach Gibson's defense the entire time. We got to prepare for the rest of the Big 12, and I want these guys to be able to block anything up and schematically be going to the right places. So I want their thinking to slow down, and the communication's got to rise up. I want everybody talking, everybody, relaying messages, so everybody's playing on the same level, playing with good continuity.